Hi everyone, and welcome to my review of Diamonds Are Forever, the seventh Bond film in the franchise, and directed by Guy Hamilton. And it's one of the three Bond films which I had never seen before going into this rewatch. So, I didn't know what to expect. I could only go by, the ratings, which is pretty decent, standard. And after On Her Majesty's Secret Service completely surprised me. This one did too, but it's safe to say in the complete opposite way, because this was dreadful, in my opinion. And it's such a shame, really, because it was Connery's last official Bond. And I suppose, like most Bonds, went out with a whimper, really, instead of a bang. And, the pre-title sequence, all the elements of the film, the bad points of the film are summed up, really. And they show throughout just this 5 minutes before the title sequence. It's just Sean Connery is just completely disinterested here, and he actually gives a bad performance, which is pretty shocking to say. Famously, he was paid 1.25 million at the time, so which was a record breaking for an actor to return by United Artists, but it was clearly just for the money, because he gave a dreadful performance. I thought, just didn't take anything seriously, and he just didn't care. And it's not just that though. I mean, that's one of the best things about the film is Sean Connery still, because everyone else is worse than him. So, and the way you could straight away tell that this is going to be one of the most campy Bonds. Just so over the top and so stupid, to the point that it's actually quite funny. But I suppose as the film goes on, it gets less and less funny, because it's just a slog. And the editing as well in the intro is just really poor, sluggish, but also manages to feel like a B film, but just cheaply made. And then it leads on to the actual title sequences, which are not very good either. And I'm not a fan of the song by Shirley Bassey. I loved Goldfinger, the title theme, but Diamonds Are Forever is not. The lyrics, they're pretty just stupid, and it's just quite a repetitive song, really. And the first sort of half an hour of the film after the title sequence, it's probably the best part of the film, but it's still really bad, because you've got a couple of fairly decent action scenes, a fight in the lift with Sean Connery, but we see these two henchmen that come into it, Mr. Wint and Mr. Kidd, I think they are, and they're just terrible. Really, just some of the most campiest villains in a film I've seen in some time. So the main plot of this film really is just Bond pretends to be a diamond smuggler in order to infiltrate the smuggling ring, and obviously comes into contact with other villains as well, people after the diamonds. He also sees the Bond girl, Tiffany Case, who's played by Jill St. John, and to be honest, she's one of the worst Bond girls of all time for me. Dreadful, really. Like pretty much everyone in the film is dreadful, but the line delivery, she just seems awkward on the screen, and just comes across as really annoying throughout the film. There's another woman in it as well, Plenty O'Toole. She makes a brief appearance in the film, played by Lana Wood. She's even worse, but luckily she's not actually the main Bond girl. And but still, Tiffany Case, just a poorly written character, and just no chemistry with Sean Connery. And yeah, just an off-putting performance, really. And Blofeld is in this film as well, played by Charles Gray this time. And again, just a poorly written character, and the performance is just laughable. I'm not sure what they were trying to go for in this film, really, but at no point does he seem a threat to Bond. It's just laughable, but it's more unintentionally laughable, mainly just because of how campy he is. And it's definitely one of the worst Bond villains for me. Not that he's forgettable, really. It's you remember him because of how bad he is, but yeah, just laughable, and you don't believe for 1 minute any of his motivations when they are revealed. And, throughout this film as well, the script is just really, really poor, poorly written. Everyone's just 1D characters, and you don't even really get the sharp the lines. The one-liners that are there just so cliched. It's almost a parody of Bond in itself, and I never felt engaged in the actual story or the characters. It was more just the only enjoyment I got from this film really is maybe one or two of the action scenes at the beginning, and just laughing at how bad the camp is in it. There's not really much to merit here. I didn't expect it to be this bad, but it is. So, and the action in this film, you'd at least expect some good action in a Bond film. But really, apart from that lift scene I was on about, the action's really, really just stale. It's not been well edited. It's just sluggish. It's not sharp. The car chases, they just seem flat, which is not usually the case of a Bond film. And there's quite a lot of action scenes in it, but they never really come off as anything to credit really. There's even a bizarre sequence with this kind of moon buggy going across the desert, and you'd think though at least it would be filmed quite well, but it just seems flat and sluggish. The editing is poor in this film. It's just cheap and just flat as well. And the ending sequence with the hideout, first of all, the location is just stupid, and the execution of these scenes in particular are just dreadful, really just awful. The effects, there's no excuse for the effects here, because all the Bond films before this looked brilliant really, and far better than this, but the effects for the explosions even, just some of the worst I've seen, and it's quite unfortunate that a Bond film that hasn't even got a good set pieces or effects, really this film has nothing to merit, apart from just enjoying the campness of it and laughing and participating in the how bad the film actually is, and there's no pace either with the film. It moves at a snail's pace. There's nothing, there's no compelling plot, which doesn't always hurt a Bond film, but you've also not really got even Sean Connery being entertaining really. He was obviously so disinterested, and he didn't really put any effort in this film. And people say that you only live twice. He gives the worst performance there, but definitely not for me. And I think this was definitely his low point, really, his only low point. I have not seen Never Say Never Again, but I imagine he's probably better, more enthusiastic in that than he is here. But that's not part of the official Bond, so I won't be reviewing that yet. And yeah, the ending scene as well. If you want to see one of the campiest deaths in cinema, you just type in Diamonds Are Forever campiest Bond kill. It's just atrocious, really, laughable, but it's not something you'd expect really at this point for the Bond films, because up until this point they'd been really consistent, in my opinion. Thunderball was bland. It was pretty forgettable, but it was solid. It wasn't bad. It wasn't like laughably bad script and stuff. They at least tried to make a decent film, but it seems like in this, everyone that's involved is just half-arsing it. You know, they're not trying, and as well unintentionally just funny, just because of how bad it is and how poorly put together it is, and you know the Mr. Wint and Mr. Kidd. You know, just that's one of the only entertaining things, but it's because they're so bad, they're so campy that it's funny. Um, for sure, some of the worst Bond villains overall, though. This was a massive disappointment for me, coming off of On Her Majesty as well, which is not affecting my rating for this film, but it's just it's weird going from what I consider one of the very best Bonds, at least, to one of the very worst Bonds. And I definitely think this is one of the low points of the franchise. There's maybe one Bond film, which I'll get to eventually, which I think at the moment is probably worse. I won't say which one, but there's no praise for this film. This is still an awful film. And overall, I was pretty shocked, but you know, as well, I was quite bored throughout the film because there was nothing really over the 2 hour plus time to fully engage me. And the only enjoyment I got, as I say, was just laughing at how bad this film was. And you know, as the lift scene really is the only decent action scene. While it's not quite unwatchable, it's seriously an awful film for me, which is why I give this film 19%. Wow, that's severely low. I didn't think this film would be that bad, but it is. And it's not a film I'm going to be rewatching many times again. Definitely overrated as it stands, and it's not highly rated, but it should be noted as one of the worst Bonds, pretty much from everyone. There's nothing really to enjoy it apart from just laughing at how bad it is. You know, a film's so bad it's good. But yeah, Diamonds Are Forever, awful film. And when I do my ranking, it's gonna be right near the bottom. Even not at the bottom, but you know, we'll get to that. But thank you for watching my review. Check out my other reviews on my channel. Thanks for watching.